I still remember the moment clearly, even after all these years. The air felt heavy, like it was holding its breath. My hands were resting on my lap, but they were shaking slightly. Not because I was cold, but because I knew something was about to change. After 20 years apart, I was finally going to see him again. I had imagined this moment many times, sometimes in the quiet of the night, sometimes while washing dishes, sometimes when the house felt too silent. In my imagination, I always cried first. I always broke down. I always said the perfect words. But real life is never like imagination. When the door finally opened, I did not cry. I did not speak. I did not move. I just stood there and looked at him. 20 years had passed, but somehow he was still familiar. His hair was thinner. His face had lines that were not there before. His eyes looked tired, but gentle. For a moment, I felt like time had folded in on itself, like we were young again, like our parents were still alive, like the house was full of noise and voices. But then reality returned. We were no longer the people we used to be. We were two adults shaped by silence, distance, and regret. And between us stood 20 years of words we never spoke. That silence hurt more than any argument we ever had. I often think people believe families fall apart because of big fights, loud shouting, harsh words, doors slamming. But that was not our story. Our family did not break in one loud moment. It broke slowly, quietly, almost politely. And by the time we noticed, the distance was already too wide. Let me take you back to the beginning. We grew up in a simple home. Nothing fancy, just enough space for everyone to live closely. Sometimes too closely. The walls were thin. You could hear footsteps in the hallway. You could hear laughter from the kitchen. You could hear sadness too, even when no one spoke. He was my brother. Not just by blood, but by shared life. We fought like children do, over small things, over silly things. But we also protected each other. If someone hurt him, I felt it. If someone hurt me, he stood up. Our parents were strict, but loving. They believed families stayed together, no matter what. I believed that, too. As we grew older, life started pulling us in different directions. He was ambitious. He wanted more. A bigger life, a different future. I was more settled. I liked routine. I liked familiar places. At first, those differences felt harmless, normal. People grow differently, after all. Then, he got married. I remember the wedding day clearly. The house was full of guests. The air smelled like food and flowers. Everyone smiled. I was happy for him, truly. But I also felt something I did not understand at the time, a quiet fear. Things changed after that. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just slowly. Phone calls became shorter. Visits became less frequent. Decisions were made without me. I told myself this was normal, that marriage changes priorities. Still, I missed him. I missed the brother who used to sit beside me late at night. The one who shared worries without judgment. As time passed, small misunderstandings began to grow. A comment that felt cold. A message that went unanswered. A promise to call that was forgotten. None of it seemed serious on its own. But together, they formed a wall. I remember one evening very clearly. It was raining outside. The house felt empty. I needed help with something important. Nothing dramatic. Just support. I called him. He sounded busy, distracted. "I'll call you back," he said. I waited. That night felt long. Every sound made me check my phone. He never called. The next day passed, then another. When we finally spoke days later, I mentioned it carefully. He brushed it off, said he forgot, said life was busy. I smiled and said it was okay. But inside, something cracked. That was the first time I felt truly alone, even though I had family. From that point on, silence became familiar. Birthdays passed quietly. Festivals felt incomplete. Family gatherings felt smaller. I tried reaching out sometimes, but every time, it felt like I was forcing something. So I stopped. Not because I did not care, but because caring started to hurt too much. Years moved forward like that. 1 year turned into 5. 5 turned into 10. Our parents grew older. Then they passed away. That should have brought us together. But instead it widened the gap. Grief does strange things to people. It can bring comfort, or it can build walls. For us, it built walls. We handled things separately, quietly. After the funeral, he left early. We hugged briefly. No long conversation. No emotional talk. Just a polite goodbye. That was the last time I saw him for a very long time. After that, life continued. But something was missing. I moved through my days. Work, home, sleep. Sometimes I would catch myself thinking about him, wondering how he was, wondering if he ever thought of me. Then I would push the thought away. I told myself I was fine. But late at night, when the house was silent, the truth surfaced. I missed him. Not the adult version, but the brother I grew up with. The one who knew my fears. The one who understood without explanation following. No calls, no letters, no visits, just memories. I grew older. Life taught me patience. It softened my anger. Time has a way of turning pain into quiet understanding. Then one day, unexpectedly, I received a message. Simple, short. He was coming back to town, just for a visit. I read that message many times. My heart felt heavy, but not angry. Just tired. I did not know how to respond, so I waited. That night, I did not sleep much. Memories came back in pieces. Laughter, arguments, silence. I wondered what he wanted. I wondered what I wanted. Most of all, I wondered if we would finally speak the truth we avoided for so long. And that brings me back to the moment at the door. Standing there, looking at each other. Older, changed, and yet connected by a past that never truly left us. And this was only the beginning. We sat across from each other in the living room, but it felt like there was a long road between us. The furniture was familiar. The walls looked the same, but the air felt different. I offered him tea. He nodded. We spoke in polite sentences, like people who were careful not to disturb something fragile. "How was the journey?" I asked. "It was fine," he said. That was it. Silence returned quickly, like it was waiting nearby. I noticed small things about him. The way he held the cup. The way his eyes moved around the room, stopping at old corners, old memories. I wondered what he was thinking. I wondered if he felt the same tightness in his chest that I felt in mine. Time had changed both of us, but it had not erased what we shared. We talked about work next, about weather, about traffic, safe topics, easy words. But every sentence felt heavy, like we were walking around something important, afraid to touch it. I wanted to ask him why he left, why he stopped calling, why he disappeared from my life without a goodbye. But my mouth stayed closed. I was afraid that if I opened it, everything would pour out at once. He looked at me and smiled gently. "You look tired," he said. I laughed softly. "So do you." That small moment felt real, familiar. For a second, I saw my brother again, not the stranger sitting across from me. That made it harder. After some time, he asked if he could see the old house, the one we grew up in. I hesitated, then nodded. We drove together. The road felt longer than it used to. Buildings had changed. Shops were different. But some things stayed the same. When we arrived, the house stood quietly, like it was waiting. Paint faded. Gate slightly rusted. We stood outside for a while, without speaking. "This place feels smaller," he said. I smiled. "It always does when you come back." We walked inside slowly. Every step brought back memories. Our parents' voices, footsteps running through the hallway, arguments that ended in laughter. He stopped near the kitchen. "She used to stand here every morning," he said softly. I nodded. She did. The room felt full of ghosts, not scary ones, gentle ones. We sat at the old table. This time the silence felt different, not empty, heavy with memories. "I never meant to leave like that," he said suddenly. My heart skipped. I looked at him, but did not speak. "I thought distance would make things easier," he continued. "I thought time would fix everything." I listened quietly. He looked down at his hands. But time didn't fix anything. It only made it harder to come back. His words hit something deep inside me. I wanted to say, "Why didn't you try?" I wanted to say, "I waited." But I didn't, because I realized something painful. I also did not try hard enough. I also stayed silent. We sat there for a long time after that. No tears yet, just quiet understanding. Later that evening, he left to stay with a friend. We agreed to meet again the next day. When he walked away, I felt something strange. Not sadness, not relief, something in between. That night, I could not sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Memories came in waves. The first time we fought as adults. The way he looked at me differently afterward. The pride that kept me from calling again. I realized how much time we had wasted protecting ourselves from pain. Sometimes we avoid truth because we think it will hurt too much. But avoiding it hurts longer. The next morning, rain fell softly. The sky was gray. The kind of day that makes everything feel slower. We met again at the house. This time, we did not sit far apart. He looked more tired, like he had not slept either. I was thinking all night, he said. So was I replied. He took a deep breath. There's something I should have said a long time ago. I nodded. I felt judged, he said quietly. Not by you directly, but by expectations, by the past, by who I was supposed to be. I listened. I felt like I was failing everyone. So I ran. His honesty surprised me. I had always thought he left because he didn't care. But now, I saw fear. I thought if I stayed away long enough, he continued, the distance would explain everything for me. I felt my chest tighten. I thought you didn't want me around anymore, I said softly. That I had become a burden. He looked up quickly. That was never true. That moment hurt more than all the years of silence, because it showed how wrong we both were. We had built stories in our heads instead of asking questions. We sat quietly again. The rain tapped against the windows. I wanted to reach out so many times, he said, but I didn't know how to start. I nodded. I waited for you, I said, for years. He closed his eyes. I'm sorry, he whispered. That word carried 20 years inside it. Sorry for missed birthdays. Sorry for funerals. Attended alone. Sorry for nights filled with questions. I felt tears then. They came slowly, quietly. I did not wipe them away. Neither did he. We did not hug yet. We just let the truth sit between us. Because sometimes truth needs space before it can heal. We talked for hours that day. Not all at once. Slowly. We talked about our parents, about guilt, about regret, about how both of us thought the other was better off without us. The more we spoke, the more the weight lifted. But there was still something unspoken, something deeper. I felt it waiting, and I knew the hardest part was still ahead. That evening, after hours of talking, the house felt different, not lighter, just honest. The kind of honesty that feels heavy at first, but necessary. We had spoken about many things, but not everything. Some truths stay buried because they scare us. I could feel one of those truths sitting between us, quiet but powerful. The sun was setting outside. The light coming through the windows softened everything. He stood near the door, looking unsure. I should tell you something, he said slowly. My heart tightened. I nodded. There was a day, he continued, when everything changed for me. I stayed silent. It was after our parents passed, he said. I felt lost. I didn't know where I belonged anymore. I remembered those days well. The confusion, the grief. I felt like I had failed them, he said. Like I failed you, too. He paused. And then something happened. He looked at me carefully, as if checking whether I could handle it. I took a deep breath. Tell me, I said. He swallowed. I asked for help, he said quietly. Not from you, from someone else. That surprised me. I was struggling, he continued. Mentally, emotionally. I couldn't sleep. I felt like I was drowning. I had never known this. I didn't want anyone to know, he said. I was ashamed. I felt a deep sadness. I thought if you knew, he said, you would see me as weak. My chest hurt. I never thought that, I said softly. He shook his head. I convinced myself you would. That was the moment I realized how alone he had been. We sat down again. I needed support, he said. But instead of asking you, I pushed you away. Tears filled his eyes. I thought disappearing would protect you from my mess. I felt my own tears return. All it did, he said, was leave us both alone. That truth landed hard. I remembered times when I sensed something was wrong, but stayed silent. Times when pride told me not to ask. We both failed each other, not by intention, but by fear. There's something else, he said. I waited. There was a letter, he said. My heart skipped. I wrote it for you, he continued, but I never sent it. He reached into his bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It looked old, worn. I've carried this for years, he said. My hands shook as he placed it on the table. I don't know why I kept it, he said. Maybe I was waiting for the right moment. The room felt very quiet. I picked up the letter. The paper felt thin, fragile. I opened it slowly. The words were simple. He apologized his fear. He wrote about loving me and not knowing how to stay. My tears fell onto the paper. This letter had waited 20 years. 20 years too late. I should have given this to you, he said. I was a coward. No, I said. We sat there, both crying quietly. Sobs. Just release. The kind that comes after holding pain for too long. That letter broke something open inside me. All the anger I thought I carried dissolved. What remained was sadness and understanding. We had wasted so much time, but we were here now. That night, we talked until our voices grew tired. We talked about how fear can silence love, how pride can sound like strength, but feel like loneliness. At one point, he said something that stayed with me. I thought if I stayed away, he said, I could erase the past. He looked at me, but the past followed me everywhere. I nodded. It did the same to me, I said. The next day, we went for a walk. The air felt cooler. We walked slowly, side by side. No pressure to talk. Just presence. That felt new. We passed people. Families. Breeze. I wondered how different our lives could have been. But I didn't let the thought grow. We stopped near a small park. He looked at me. Do you think, he asked, we can still be family? That question held so much hope and fear. Yes, I said, but it won't be the same. He nodded. I know. It doesn't have to be, I added. It just has to be honest. He smiled softly. That smile felt like forgiveness. But there was still one thing left. One truth I had not spoken. That night, as we sat quietly, I gathered courage. There's something I need to tell you, I said. He turned toward me. I blamed you, I said, for a long time. He listened without interruption. I told myself you abandoned me, I continued, that you chose your life over me. I swallowed. But the truth is, I said, I was afraid too. I admitted how I avoided calling, how I waited for him to make the first move. I thought reaching out would make me look weak, I said. He nodded slowly. I understand. Saying those words felt freeing, like laying down a heavy bag I had carried too long. We did not fix 20 years in one conversation, but we faced it, and that mattered. As the night grew quiet, I felt something unfamiliar. Peace. Not because everything was perfect, but because the truth no longer hid in the shadows. And I knew we were finally moving forward. The days that followed felt slower, like time had decided to be gentle with us. There was no rush anymore, No pressure to fix everything at once. We spent time together in small, simple ways. The kind of moments that do not look important from the outside, but mean everything inside. One morning, we sat at the kitchen table with our tea. The window was open. A soft breeze moved the curtains. For years, this table had felt empty. Now it felt shared again. We did not talk much at first. We did not need to. Sometimes, healing begins in silence. But this silence was different from the one we carried before. This one felt safe. We began talking about ordinary things. Food we liked. Small habits we had picked up over the years. He laughed when I told him I still woke up early, even without reason. I was always like that, I said. Some habits never leave. He smiled. I noticed how careful he was now, how gently he chose his words, like someone afraid of breaking something fragile. I felt the same way. Trust does not return suddenly. It returns in steps. We visited places from our past. The old market. The small street where we used to buy snacks as children. Everything looked smaller, but the memories felt bigger. At one point, we stood near a shop that had closed long ago. Do you remember this place? He asked. Yes, I said. You used to spend all your money here. He laughed softly. That was before responsibility, he said. We laughed together. That sound felt like something we had lost and found again. But not every moment was light. There were times when old pain surfaced quietly. One evening, I found him sitting alone, staring at nothing. You okay? I asked. He nodded slowly. Just thinking, he said, period. About what? I asked. About everything I missed, he replied. His honesty stayed steady. No drama. Just truth. I missed your life, he said. I missed being there. I sat beside him. So did I said. But we are here now. He took a deep breath. Sometimes I wonder, he said, if I deserve this second chance. That question came from deep inside him. Yes, I said without hesitation. We both do. He looked at me, surprised. We were not cruel, I continued. We were scared. That night, we talked about forgiveness. Not the kind that forgets everything, but the kind that understands. Forgiveness does not erase pain. It changes how we carry it. We shared stories of the years apart, his struggles, my quiet loneliness. I told him about evenings spent alone, about holidays that felt empty. He told me about guilt that never left him, about nights filled with regret. Listening to each other felt like stitching something torn. Slowly, carefully. There was no blame now, only understanding. One afternoon, we cleaned the old house together. Dust covered the shelves. Old boxes waited to be opened. Inside one box, we found photographs. Old ones. Our parents. Us as children. We sat on the floor. Pictures spread around us. He picked one up. Only pictures spread around us. We look happy here. Jack. It's been 2 decades since we last visit together, he said. We were, I replied. He looked at the photo longer. So I ran. That honesty felt painful, but real. We don't lose things by talking, I said. That moment felt like a lesson learned late, but learned deeply. As days passed, something changed inside me. I stopped replaying the past. Instead, I focused on what we were building. Now, it wasn't perfect, but it was real. We began to plan small things. Another visit, a phone call. "Let's not disappear again," he said one evening. "We won't," I replied. We made simple promises, nothing dramatic, just consistency. I realized something important during those days. Reunion is not about returning to the past. It is about meeting again as who we are now. Older, wiser, more honest. One morning, he prepared breakfast. It wasn't very good. I laughed. "You were never good at this," I said. He smiled. "Some things really don't change." That laughter felt like healing. Before he left, we stood near the door again. But this time, it felt different. No fear, no distance. "I'm glad we talked," he said. "So am I replied. He hesitated, then hugged me. It was not long, not dramatic, just real. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Belonging. The morning he left, the house felt quiet again. But this time, the silence did not feel empty. It felt settled. We stood near the door, not rushing, not avoiding each other's eyes. There was no fear of unfinished words anymore. "I'll call you when I reach," he said. "I'll be waiting," I replied. And this time I meant it without doubt. When the door closed behind him, I stood there for a while. Not because I felt abandoned, but because I was letting the moment stay with me. For 20 years, I had lived with unanswered questions. Now, those questions finally had a voice. The days after he left felt different from before. The house still had the same walls, the same rooms, but something inside me had shifted. I noticed it in small ways. When I made tea, I poured 2 cups by habit. When my phone rang, I no longer felt that familiar hesitation. And when I sat alone in the evenings, I did not feel forgotten. I felt connected. We spoke often after that. Not every day, not for hours, just enough. A message here, a call there. Consistency replaced silence. Sometimes our conversations were simple. "How was your day? Did you eat? Did it rain there too?" But sometimes we spoke about deeper things. About fear, about regret, about how easily people drift apart without meaning to. One evening, during a call, he said something that stayed with me. "I always thought time would heal everything," he said. "But time only waits. Healing needs courage." I agreed. Courage to speak. Courage to listen. Courage to admit we were wrong. As weeks passed, I found myself reflecting on the years we lost. I thought about all the moments we missed. Celebrations that felt incomplete. Hard days faced alone. Decisions made without support. For a while, sadness returned. But then I realized something important. Those years did not disappear. They shaped us. They taught us patience. They taught us humility. And most importantly, they taught us the value of honesty. One afternoon, I took out the letter again. The one he had written years ago. I read it slowly. This time, it didn't hurt. It felt like a reminder of how far we had come. I folded it carefully and placed it somewhere safe. Not as a reminder of pain, but as proof of growth. Life moved forward. He visited again, months later. The meeting felt easier this time. No awkward pauses. No guarded words. We cooked together, shared meals, talked like people who knew each other again. One night, as we sat quietly, he said, "I'm grateful we didn't let pride win." So was I, because pride almost cost us everything. I often think about how many families live in silence like we did. Not because they don't care, but because they don't know how to begin. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect words. But perfect moments rarely come. What comes instead is time, and time keeps moving. If there is one thing these 20 years taught me, it is this. Silence feels safe, but it is heavy. Truth feels scary, but it sets us free. We avoided the truth for so long because we thought it would hurt, but what truly hurt was living without it. Now, when I look back, I do not focus on the loss. I focus on the reunion, on the courage it took to open the door, on the strength it took to listen. Reunion does not mean everything becomes perfect. It means choosing honesty over comfort. It means allowing people to be human. We are still learning, still adjusting, but we are no longer strangers, and that is enough. Sometimes late at night, I sit quietly and think about how close we came to never speaking again. That thought humbles me. It reminds me not to wait, not to assume, not to let fear speak louder than love. If you are listening to this and holding words inside you, words meant for someone you once loved, I hope our story reaches you. Do not wait 20 years. Speak now, even if your voice shakes, because the truth you avoid today becomes the regret you carry tomorrow. And if you are lucky enough to reunite, be brave enough to listen. That is how healing begins. That is how families return. That is how we finally spoke the truth we avoided.